Kathleen.
Hello.
What a pleasure meeting you, and I'm so glad we get to have this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
You've been such a driving force and a part of so many wonderful campaigns. Talk to us about how you define bold creativity today.
That's a great question. So everyone says they want to be bold. I can't tell you how many creative kickoffs I have been in that have requested bold ideas. And people don't necessarily embrace true boldness, but the people who do, the clients, the account teams, all the internal staff that support the creative department through those bold idea journeys have to be brave. They have to be supportive. So the creative department will always come up with bold ideas. I have a lot of faith in the creative department. It's what happens after the creative department that often is the watering down of ideas. And so we start extremely bold. We always try to come at it from the most boundary pushing spot at the beginning, knowing that as it goes through the journey, it may get diminished just because of the process that it has to go through, especially in health. So we are always looking for something very sticky. You want something that's going to be memorable and fast, and you want something that's going to be different. And one of the things we've had great success with is emotion and entertainment. Those two components can be very persuasive to people, and they can help people participate in the idea and not just take it in and move on. When you're entertaining and you capture someone's emotion, your communication hits differently, and in health that's so important because we want people to get these messages because they need to take action to better their life.
So you talked about things getting watered down, your really bold, creative ideas being watered down, primarily because there are some regulatory constraints that happen in healthcare.
Yeah.
So how do you maintain, though, some of that boldness? How do you do it?
It is a labor of love. Honestly, you can never take your foot off the gas. You can never set it and forget it. It is a constant, every day in the trenches, protecting this idea and really sort of fighting for what you believe is the best version of this idea. And that commitment has to be carried through. I think what people don't understand in health is that our runway can be very long. By the time we get an idea to market, it could be 6 to 12 months of that idea being worked on. That is a lot of eyeballs. That is a lot of opinions. That is a lot of legal, medical, OPDP regulation. So if you're not tending to that idea, if you're not committed to protecting the value of that idea and the preciousness of that idea, what you end up with at the end of the journey is going to be nothing like what you started with, and that's a big loss. You want to hold on to that win, and you want to hold on to the potential of that idea, the power of the idea that moved everyone to select it in the beginning, and make sure that it's not death by 1,000 cuts by the time you get to the end of it. So it's a commitment. I mean, you have to nurture this thing and take care of it as it makes its way through this circuitous system that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure it's all about the pivot, too, making that the essence of that initial idea fit within the confines of what you can and can't say.
Yeah, and you have to have a high bar. You know, a lot of people get tired and they just are like, I can't fight the good fight anymore, or, you know, who cares? I'm just done with this. You can't get like that. The great pieces of work, sometimes you get lucky and they sail through and, you know, they're barely touched, but that's rare. This is a day in, day out commitment to the work.
And a very subjective one, too.
It is.
It is. So as a woman leading creative in a really competitive, often male-driven industry, what's this journey taught you, and what would you teach other women who want to be you?
You know, that's very nice of you. And I do get this question a fair amount, and I think it's an interesting question. Yes, it still is very male-dominated, especially the creative department, but what we always have to keep in mind is that women make 80+% of the purchasing decisions in our society. They are chief healthcare officer for their families, for their extended families. They are procurement for their household. We are the audience that we're speaking to over 80% of the time. And that authenticity and that opinion and that understanding and that deep knowledge is so valuable. And you just need to make your voice heard. You need to make sure you believe in that. And there is always opportunity to insert yourself into the conversation. You have to be there. So, one of the things I find with women that I manage, and I see this happen over and over again, women wait. They wait until they think they have all the answers. They wait until they can do it perfectly well. And all the research shows this, that women will wait to apply for the job until they have 100% of the skills. And you don't have to do that. It's already in you. You've been living this, and we need you. We need your voices. So just have the confidence in yourself to say, I don't have to have all the answers right now. I have gut instincts, and I will figure it out as it comes, and I trust my decisions, and I trust that I'm going to get to a good place. I trust myself. And that is the secret sauce. You really just have to go for it and trust yourself.
I love that. I love that. You absolutely have to have trust in yourself and confidence, which is what I just heard you say.
Yeah, and you have to bring people along with you.
Yeah,
I think women can be really good at that. You don't have to do it by yourself. You can assemble a great team, you can pull everyone into your tent, and you can create an environment where not just you, but the people around you can succeed, and that leads to better work, that leads to better staff retention, and strong relationships.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. What advice would you give to people who are like non-traditional creatives who want to be a part of this really fun world that we work in?
You have to do the homework. I think there's room for all different kinds of voices and all different kinds of talents, and we're seeing this major disruptive moment where people are learning new skills right now. AI is forcing everybody to relearn how to work, and that's just going to continue over the next few years. It's sort of like when Photoshop came in and the drawing ended and the desktop layouts began. So it's a really great opportunity to enter. If you are a non-traditional advertising person, you can come in, and the playing field has been a little bit leveled. We have a program where we try and recruit folks from all different walks of life, academic backgrounds, to come in and get entry-level positions, learn about the industry. And the things that I see that surprise people the most, the hours that we work. You're going to have to commit to client service, and it is not for the faint of heart. So
no 9 to 5.
No. And when your client is ready to talk, you're ready to talk. And even me, at my level, my husband still asks me, I don't understand how you don't know what your schedule is every day. I'm in client service. I'll never know what my schedule is. So you just have to have that flexibility and that willingness to jump in and problem solve when you need it, and that's hard for people who aren't from this background. And then you also have to show up properly. Yes. You have to do your homework, you have to be prepared, you have to have samples and some work that's applicable to some of the things that we have done. And then my two favorite ingredients, hustle and grit. Anybody can do it. You can come in, and if you work hard enough and you say yes to all these opportunities, you will see yourself grow and get new assignments, and I think that's really a secret weapon.
That's brilliant. So you did talk about AI and like the future of creative and healthcare in particular. So what excites you about the future? What excites you? Is it AI? A little cheat?
Yeah, I do think AI is really interesting. There is a component of AI that's very murky, and you're like, how's this all going to unfold? Yeah. But I'm an optimist by nature, and I do see so much uptake and creative amplification. Things that we were never able to do before are now at our fingertips in ways that we never thought possible. Even things that I couldn't do 2 months ago are being done now. So that's a real moment of creative sort of mojo that's happening. And that's very, very exciting. I also think that health is exciting because everyone has just really plugged into health in ways that they hadn't in the past. And so we're seeing much more focus, much more investment, much more commitment on just the general public's part to be educated, to be a participant in their health. And I think as Gen X ages and millennials age, this will continue to grow. These are populations who are very much charting their own path, very savvy on all sorts of media. So I think it's going to be a really interesting time to watch these populations grow and consume media and information in ways that older generations before them have not done.
I agree. So to that point, with the explosion of all these digital platforms and this really hyper focus on patient generated content, how are you thinking differently about audience engagement?
Every day, that is the question that is being asked. And I think what we have found is really there has to be this authenticity. There has to be an understanding of your audience that is so fresh and up to the minute, because things change now. You know, when you were in a broadcast world where you did 2 commercials a year and you were on a certain program and the demographics stayed the same, it was much more orderly and neat. Now you're seeing trends pop up overnight. You're seeing media platforms pop up, consumption patterns change, lexicon changing. I mean, it is week to week. Sometimes you'll find things that are trending. So we're really trying. We do plenty of social listening, constant social listening. And we really lean into this authenticity as much as possible, especially in health. It's a very humanly connected experience. We are all going to get sick, no matter what. And this isn't for consumer brands. Not everyone likes soda. Not everyone is rich. We all are going to get sick. Someone we love is going to get sick. And this is a real unifier, I think, of the human experience. And so to stay on top of that and really look at how you can relate to your audience and to really feed into these, how can I support, how can I understand, how can I speak to them in a language that's going to land and stick and create behavior, it's a constant, it moves so fast, it's a constant leaning in.
Of course, it definitely is. So when you think of like customer or patient expectations evolving too, how do you meet that? How do you meet people where they are all the time?
You know, I think brands struggle with that, to be honest, because the market moves so fast and technology moves so quickly and your competitors may be more nimble than you. So again, you just have to constantly keep in touch with your demographic, with your audience, with who your customer is. It is not a world that used to be, oh, I did market research 2 years ago. It has become a world where you did social listening yesterday, and this is what you're working on today. And that's not going to change. The tools are moving rapidly, and I think it's really good for the patients. I think it's really good for us as human beings, because you're going to be served in a fresher way, and you're going to be able to get the information that you need. Now, the person who creates all that is busy. You know, they're very busy, but it is a really good trend.
Yeah. And how do you tackle that as, say you don't have the condition? How do you know what that person's lived experience is? How do you challenge your team to meet the people where they are?
You know, we really have a strong strategy and medical team who have these empathy generators, these really deep sessions where you deep dive into what it's like to live with this condition, what it's like to treat this condition, what it's like to care for someone with this condition. So we'll be in kickoff meetings sometimes and people are crying. They can be very, very emotional. And it's a real honor to get educated like that. You become a better human being in other areas of your life because you have this empathy factor. And without that, I don't think you can really create powerful health messaging.
I agree. I 100% agree. So I'm going to jump back to AI because I'm thinking of patient journeys and personas and how you can use new tools to help make your teams better and the work better. So how is AI and data really playing a role on your team? Is there a process that you have specifically?
Yes,
Talk
very
to us
much
about
so.
it.
And we're building it and revising it and tweaking it every day. So we've probably been on this AI journey maybe a little bit longer than most. So it's probably been 2.5 years for us to have AI begin to be embedded through each one of our departments. So it starts at the very beginning with medical, and they use AI to cull all the vast amounts of medical information and data that will feed into these incredible briefing and understanding sessions of the disease parameters that we're dealing with. Then it goes to strategy, and they do living personas. They do all sorts of listening and are able to get to insights that would normally take a long time to get to, because going through all this information was very time consuming. Now with AI, we can amplify that process and get to all of that information much faster, and it's able to be consolidated into a very user-friendly format, and then it comes to the creative department, and that's where we just take off with the making of the work and using all the AI tools to really build out these pieces of work that are pretty extraordinary. The things that can be done in the creative department now that used to have to be done in post-production or production, there's an unleashing of creativity that's going on, because in real time you can start making things that you used to need a production crew to do.
Oh, I love the thought of that.
Which is very, very cool.
Yeah. So AI is actually helping or empowering creativity.
Augmented. That's what we call it.
Not taking it away from it.
Yes, we
which
call
is
it
fantastic.
augmented intelligence, because it is really amplifying every facet of the business. And then we send it over to production. And normally that was a very traditionally based, very methodical process. And now we're laying AI into the process in all these new ways that are giving us more assets, better assets faster. And it's fun because we're all figuring it out together. It's like a kid in a candy store where you're like, oh my God, we can do that now. We weren't able to do that. And so what you're ending with has an AI thread that has woven through the entire journey of the project, and it's pretty incredible where we're getting there faster, so there's efficiencies.
Yes, that's great.
But it really is an amplification of what the human brain can do, and a group of people working together can make possible.
It's amazing. It's amazing where we are now. Seriously.
It's just going to get more and more refined and incredible too. We're watching this rapid uptake.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting.
So back to you. Who inspires you in your creativity outside of everybody who just in your immediate sphere? Who do you go to? Who's your inspiration?
It's not just one person, and I think if you ask any creative person, they are inspired by everything. Even this set, I walked in and I was like, oh my God, orange. Like, you feel this inspiration and this jolt. So color, energy, watching a movie or a TV show and seeing the credits. We have an art or a copywriter on staff who loves old magazines and artful magazines, and she's constantly feeding us information. So you're just a sponge, and you're soaking up inspiration everywhere. It could be a conversation you have with your cab driver over here where they tell you something and you're like, oh my God, that's a really human moment. Or, I have teenagers and you start to overhear something and you're like, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. So I think creative people are very open-minded sponges, and we walk through the world sort of soaking in all of these different inputs. Oh my
goodness, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it can be exhausting, but that is part of the magic of the creative department, because then you all come back to this place together and you have somebody showing you something and telling you something, and you're like, it's a catalyst. So it really is, it is everywhere. You have to put yourself in situations that are inspiring, and you have to look for inspiration in ordinary situations.
Just be open to the inspiration.
Yeah.
I love that. So when you look at the next generation of upcoming Kathleens, right? What do you hope they do differently?
I'm a big believer in the basic ingredients of success, and I don't think they change that much. I think if you are open to opportunity, open to different viewpoints, open to new assignments, open to different maybe agencies, bosses, journeys, that is huge. So don't shut yourself down. Don't make your world smaller. Always say yes to something. If you're going to learn something, say yes to something. But it also has to come with a component of hard work and responsibility. You have to show up well. And those are really tried and true ingredients. One of the things I think that has changed is the population you're surrounded by may be more like you. So when I came up in this business, I was one of the few women on my team.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a lot of female leaders. So there wasn't really a playbook for me to watch a person make a multidimensional life choice. So if you wanted to have a career and you wanted to have a family, it wasn't very clear how you were going to make that work, because a lot of women dropped out of the workforce because of production schedules and client service schedules.
Right.
Now it's much better. Now I think women have a lot of places to look for balance of decision making and life choices, and they should embrace that and stay open to that, because the workforce has changed for the better in a lot of ways for women, I think. But you still have to show up and believe in yourself, and you have to believe in your own ability to succeed, and don't shrink yourself.
Right. And that's the difficult thing, because this is traditionally a male-dominated environment. And I mean, you've got television and shows like Mad Men that tell you where, how advertising should be.
Absolutely.
But thanks to pioneers like you, you've really made a indelible impression, I think,
I'm stubborn, and I just kept at it. Just have to keep at it. And I know that you're a woman in business as well, and you read all of these statistics that say women sort of take themselves out of the game just because they don't believe that they have the skill set to succeed, or they don't have the opinion, and you can't do that. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to speak up, and you have to put yourself in those situations, and you have to keep doing it. It's not a one and done.
Exactly.
It's a consistent sort of
I like
methodology.
The word constant.
Yes, consistency is key, right?
Yes, absolutely. So what role do you believe creativity plays in improving healthcare and overall healthcare mindsets?
Huge. I think creative is everything, honestly. Of course I think that, but I have seen it firsthand, and I've been saying to my creatives for years, you have to show up with a great idea, because if your idea gets noticed and causes someone to take action, you are helping improve their life. And I think a lot of people just think that that's lip service. But in the last 3 months, I can tell you 2 very specific examples that have really blown my mind. One is we did a beautiful campaign for organ donation, and it was not a big media buy behind it. It was a beautiful piece of creative that stopped people in their tracks, and so far we have had over 90 strangers donate an organ to someone. It's been so successful that they are expanding the program. So that is
amazing.
90 plus people who are getting an organ that have been on an organ donation list because of a piece of communication. So that is very powerful. And then we have another piece of work. We do a lot of work to support physicians' mental health. And I don't know if you know this sobering statistic, but physicians have one of the highest rates of suicide of any profession. They think it's even higher than what's documented because they have access to medications that may camouflage the suicide. So we've been leaning in for a few years supporting physicians, and we just saved a trauma surgeon's life. She was suicidal. She was going to drive her car off a bridge, and she had been involved with this exhibit that we did called The Disposables that showed several doctors who had died from suicide. We showcased it at the American Medical Association and in the state of Ohio to get some rules changed. She saw it. She knew a friend of hers had been there and called them. And now she's told us her story, and we are sharing that with the world. She is a trauma surgeon who saves millions of people's lives, and her life was saved by a piece of communication. So these are real outcomes. This isn't just a blip on a chart. This is a real human being. These are 90 people who will now have another shot at life, and that is the power of health creative.
Well, I was going to ask you about the one campaign that really moved the needle, but you gave us 2.
I actually have, one other one that I'd love to talk about, and that is Equal Band, and the fact that we have sort of shed light on green light technology, not tracking data on dark skin. And that is so important. We've talked a lot about AI.
Oh, yeah.
And all of these algorithms are being fed data that is not accurate. And people love their smartwatches, and they should. There's a lot of great benefits about them, but that green light is not tracking data equally. And these algorithms are going to feed treatment decisions for years to come. And so to help interrupt that with a campaign and a piece of technology that could better outcomes for all of these people, that's another really powerful example of what we have the power to do in the creative department, in a creative industry.
Absolutely, and that even those small things do make a big difference. Well, I will tell you, as a black woman, I can barely get the soap machines to work because they don't read my skin.
Green light. That is green light.
It's green light.
It's in everything.
So thank you, Kathleen. It has been an absolute pleasure spending some time with you and really getting some of those important details about the work that you do and why it's so important.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here, and I am just thrilled to be a jury chair.